No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way.
He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a
If
legend.
fucking on it though, then
He
you
a
can't look
legend.
it up later.
Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and in this video, I'm gonna try doing something. Well, I'm gonna try to do something a little different, which is similar to what I've done in the past, but it's just gonna be slightly different in this video. We're gonna take a look at the games from last week. We're gonna go through the like betting results. So, looking for underdogs, looking for close matches. There were some games that I think are important to take a deeper look at. So we're going to take a look at some of those games, especially the upsets. I always like looking at upsets because what that implies is that there was something about the matchup that everybody was either misunderstanding or underrating. Not necessarily, but that's normally the case, especially for the people, especially for the public that says like, oh, Team X will never beat Team Y. But we'll get into that. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was a thread from LoL predictions. So people who follow me on Twitter probably see my interactions with LoL predictions every once in a while. He does a lot of exactly what his name says, predictive stuff for LoL. He posts out some of his information sometimes. Just a good follow if you're looking for another person to follow. But he said, I don't get the line movement on either LPL game tonight. This morning I had both as no bet, but the Pinnacle lines are suggesting that he should be making a bet, meaning that he feels like he has an edge over the sportsbook in that scenario. And then he was asking, like, is there some late COVID news? Because he was trying to figure out why he was so far off of the market. So I said, Beishang is back, which is important because this is the first match that Beishang is back. I've been saying consistently that I am not playing World Elite until Beishang is back. And the reason is because a player like Beishang in a role like the jungle, it's very important. It's the equivalent of a quarterback. I think that other people who have tried to make that analogy in the past may have said that mid lane or AD carry are like the quarterbacks of the NFL, but it's just not true. In reality, the mid lane, and more so the AD carry, is more like a luxury position. It's more like a wide receiver or a running back because those things are nice to have, but if you have an exceptional quarterback, they'll be able to make up some of that difference. They'll be able to elevate the play of your surrounding players. It's much less likely that your wide receiver or running back will increase the value of the other players around them. It's certainly possible, and you can always look at different teams and compare. Like, you can talk about the exceptional players, but as a rule, the jungler right now is really the most important player on the team, and is in my mind the quarterback. So then, LoL prediction goes on to say, in the last 3 years of the LPL, the two worst players were Ice Coke and View. And I think both of those players were junglers, and junglers on bad teams should have bad stats because they're a lot of the time they're the ones who are expected to create engages and stuff like that. So if you're looking at KDA information, it could really throw everything out of whack. And then he said Beishang grades as elite. Beishang coming in for View is a big upgrade because he thinks that Beishang is elite according to the statistics, which I would agree with. And then he said, but I think as long as Xing starts, you can just print betting versus him, meaning you'll make money if you bet against World Elite. He says that he grades out very weak. I said that I think he should throw out the games that Xing has played without Beishang. And he said, maybe I agree 100%. Beishang is a difference maker, but I think you might also be underrating just how poor Xing has been. Either way, I'm clearly betting into a market that disagrees with me, so I'm probably wrong. So there are a couple things to take away from that. I like his mentality because he's like seeing the stuff that's going on around him. Like, he understands that he's betting into a market going against him. He understands that he could have some like wrong perceptions about the matchup, but he's still willing to stick to his process, which is ultimately probably the right thing to do. Because that way you're not jumping from side to side and then like losing even more, where like you start bringing your own process into consideration. But this is probably something that he'll look back on and think to himself, if I believe the player coming in is a huge upgrade over the player that they're replacing, then maybe I should eliminate some of the games with the other roster because maybe it's just as bad as not having that quarterback. And people make that argument a lot in fantasy football. Like, oh, yeah, that wide receiver was on Team X last year. Their quarterback was Y. He's horrible. He couldn't get him the ball. They would only target him 5 times a game. He's going to a new offense. He'll have twice as many targets, and he should have a statistical explosion. And like those kinds of things are all very important for fantasy. So it was just a good kind of Twitter thread that I thought you all might find interesting. So the moral of the story is Beishang is back. Now we can bet World Elite as much as we want. They won yesterday. They beat LGD. So obviously World Elite against an upper echelon team, we're not really going to want to fire at them as aggressively. But against a team like LGD that is about their skill level, I felt really good taking a shot on World Elite. I was surprised that they were listed as the favorite. That must have been the closing line because I think earlier on you could have gotten them as the underdog. At least that's what I would have assumed. But let's go through these games and take a look at the results. So Invictus Gaming against Rare Atom. Invictus Gaming had a good upset win over Rare Atom. This was one that I think I was either on or I talked about both sides being live. No, I was on Rare Atom. Then we have JDG against World Elite. JDG won. That's not surprising to anybody. Ultra Prime against Anyone's Legends. Anyone's Legend has had a couple of good performances recently. I like the talent of Ultra Prime. I think that their bot lane is good. I was never going to get that one right. Billy Billy Gaming against Thunder Talk. Billy Billy won. OMG against V5. That was a really close match, and that's the kind of match where this is the outcome that we expect, where V5 ended up winning and people are talking highly about Rookie and Karsa. But in reality, I think we learned more about OMG, so if you have the time, I would definitely recommend looking at the OMG V5 series if you want to understand both of those teams a little bit better. Then we have RNG against Top Esports. Top Esports brought out some like subs and everything, so that was pretty tilting. That was not good. Weibo Gaming against FPX. This was a very close matchup on the money line, and it was very close in real life. I think that Weibo Gaming did look better than FPX. And it comes down to a player like the Shy, because Xiaolao Hu is a good player, but when the Shy is at his peak, he's better than almost every top laner in the world, and he's not even playing difficult champions sometimes. I think he played Kennen and Malphite in this match. Kennen, Malphite, and Lucian. So Lucian is the one with the highest ceiling. They lose that game. Malphite, pretty generic, easy champion to play, not mechanically difficult. It's more about decision making. He wins that game against the Jace. And then the Kennen match, he had some good engages, and Kennen's like a good champion in general for a player like the Shy who is willing to go in, even from a losing position. But they were pretty convincing in their win over FPX. I was very happy about that. That was an emotional free roll for me. I think I picked FPX as the underdog for the emotional free roll. I did. And then EDG obviously beat World Elite without Beishang. Then we had Rare Atom against Anyone's Legend. That one, a lot of people were actually talking about Anyone's Legend as a good upset spot. They remind me of like E-Star from a couple seasons ago, where other people are going to start jumping on Anyone's Legend, and I'll just be against it every time, which is fine. V5 against IG. That went as expected. LNG against BLG. That went the way that I expected it to, but the money line would suggest it should have been closer. The match should have been closer. I just think it's really... I think that it was a close match. BLG is good. LNG is good. The only correct takeaway from this is that they're both good teams. They'll both be competitive. If you're saying like, oh, LNG should have won by more, or oh, BLG should have kept it closer, you're kind of missing the point of like a larger sample size. Maybe that's not the right way to say that, but that's kind of how I feel. FPX against Ultra Prime. So that was another spot where I was open to the idea that Ultra Prime was going to win, but I knew FPX was the better side. And for the World Elite side, I was definitely going to be on World Elite. I think that if Beishang was playing the entire season, this line wouldn't have been anywhere close to 156 to 116. So that's basically that. Let's take a look at the scoreboards from this match, because I just want to show like how different it can be. So game 1 was a very low kill score game. It was 9-6. Beishang and Xinjiao against Viego. That looks close enough where it was probably a throw by LGD. I didn't watch that game in real time. Game 2, LGD wins. Eric had a huge game. This might not be like, this will be a reason to play LGD in the future probably, depending on the matchup. And then in game 3, this game looked really good. It was very, very close. This game, I did watch this game. The number of times that World Elite looked like they were about to get wiped and then just like turned around and got 3 or 4 kills, it was crazy how many times it happened. And it really could have gone either way. So a lot of people will be happy that World Elite ended up getting there, getting the win in the match. And I think that moving forward, we can be more confident in playing World Elite. But this should probably be a time that we also remind ourselves that LGD is not as bad as their record has been so far this season either. So that's basically that. Let's go to the LCK. So in the LCK last week, we had T1 beat Homolife. DRX had the upset over KT Rolster. LCK specifically was tough last week because there were a lot of problems with rosters because of COVID. I think this DRX match, this was the one where DRX had to play like 4 substitutes, and I still kind of liked them as the upset because when you're bringing 4 players in and swapping out the wide receiver, well, the AD carry, which in my mind is like a wide receiver, it's going to be a lot easier to play. But the curveball in this game was that the actual roster came in for games 2 and 3. So DRX won that series. I'm already pretty high on DRX, so I wasn't totally shocked. I think if it was the full roster, they could have won the series. If they bring in the subs, I knew they still had a chance. Damwon against Kwangdong Freaks, that went the way that we thought it would. Genji, same thing. Fred Brian against Nongshim. Nongshim had some substitutes because of COVID. DRX against Homolife. I'm pretty surprised that line was that close. T1 against Genji. Genji had some players missing because of COVID. Damwon wins, and then Kwangdong against Nongshim. That was another spot where Nongshim had some substitutes because of COVID. And then KT Rolster beat Fred Brian. But I think Fred Brian had a chance to win that match. Let's go to the LEC. So BDS against Misfits. I think it was either this game or the next game where I'm starting to think that I have to downgrade BDS. I'm not going to do it yet, but next week, if I don't see improvement next week, that's when I'll make the change. Because there were some points in the game that they should have been playing more aggressive. And I think that it will be pretty self-evident in the VODs, and they'll make a point to be more aggressive in the future. Astralis had a big upset against Rogue. They did a good thing against Malrong where they were attacking Malrong in the jungle. So basically what that does is you get the initiative over the enemy team, and they're not expecting you to fight them in their jungle, which is kind of one of the strong points of Rogue. Rogue has been more organized and more proactive, like going into the enemy jungle, establishing vision in the river, ganking a lot, always having the first move. So by Astralis playing one step faster, it really took Rogue by surprise. It's nothing that I think Rogue will have trouble with consistently in the future. It's just that's how League of Legends is. Like, it was the smart thing for Astralis to be more aggressive. Then Vitality against XL. Vitality lost both of their matches this weekend. It's looking pretty sketchy. Mad and Vitality, one of them might not make the playoffs, which is pretty shocking. Fnatic beat SK, and then G2 beat Mad Lions. It was a sad Lions weekend. We could actually take a look at that. That's week 3. Or is it week 5? Yeah, week 5. So Mad Lions against G2. 14-4, Broken Blade against Graves. Graves is starting to look like a champion that is picked often for bad reasons and constantly is underwhelming. Yonkos on a Gwen game, that's pretty surprising. I think that we all know G2 is a pretty good team. We might be getting close to them being overrated, though, like significantly overrated. I think in the playoffs I'll be betting against them. Then day 2, BDS against XL. This one was annoying to me. This is the game that BDS really made me question my view on them. SK Gaming against Mad Lions. This was another throw by Mad Lions, which is somewhat concerning. Misfits against Rogue. Good win by Misfits. I think that some people will want to talk about Rogue and say that they might not be as good as they thought they were. Rogue is very good. They're probably they're a top 3 team in the LEC. That's all that really matters. G2 against Astralis. G2 took care of business. Another Graves loss. And then Fnatic beat Vitality. And this is the kind of thing that I hate. Like, why are you giving Humanoid TF? Like, put them on anything else and you'll create an advantage. But that's basically it. So, like I said, with Vitality and Mad Lions both losing both of their matches, it's starting to become questionable for qualifying for playoffs. So, I mean, XL will probably be the one to crash out. So let's see what we have. All right. So I think that Misfits against XL, I prefer Misfits. SK against G2, I prefer... Wait, what? Oh, start editing. Misfits, G2, Fnatic, Vitality. Rogue against Mad, I think you got to take Rogue. I wish they had like an automatic update on here. BDS against SK. I think BDS wins. That's going to be a spot that I want to bet because people will probably rather be on SK after their win over Mad Lions. XL against Astralis. I think this is the kind of thing where you can give XL like a 60 to 65% chance to win this match specifically. Probably 60. Misfits against Mad. It's a tough game. Actually, can I do that? That might be a game that I should leave open. It's kind of a toss-up. But we can say, give that one to Mad, just to see what happens. Vitality against Rogue. That's a super important matchup for playoff implications. Fnatic and G2, they're both looking like they're going to qualify no matter what. But we can just give it to Fnatic. Mad against Astralis, give it to Mad. XL, Misfits against Fnatic, Fnatic. BDS against Rogue, give it to Rogue. Vitality against G2. That's another very important match for Vitality, so they have 2 tough matches left. Then you give them that, give them that. That's a tough one. Give them that. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they go 5 wins, 2 losses. 5 wins, 2 losses. If they go 5 and 2, they should make it in the playoffs. Right. And then we would have Mad Lions going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 2. They should make playoffs. XL, we go 1, 2. Man, they might only have 2 wins the rest of the way in. 1, 2. So that's tough. That's going to be tough for XL. I don't believe in them as much as I believe in the other teams. I guess they would have to definitely win 4 to put a lot of pressure on Mad Lions and Vitality. BDS against Astralis probably won't have playoff implications. Misfits against G2 probably will. I think you just give it to G2. Give it to Rogue to keep it close. BDS, G2. So 1, 2, 3. So the seeding can kind of go all the way. I was just doing this to see what I think that it's going to look like as it plays out. Next match is... Oh, they already have the lines out. Let's go back to that. Actually, we don't need to go back to that. We'll take a look at that in a different video. And then in the LCS, we had Evil Geniuses beat Dig, which was a good win. Immortals upset 100 Thieves, which is obviously a good win. Let's take a look at that. So we had... Oh, Immortals just won one huge team fight in mid lane. He had a questionable engage. Well, not even really questionable. They just got out team fought in one game, and they lost. Team Liquid against Cloud9. Team Liquid did exactly what I said you should do against Cloud9 by trying to restrict the carry champion pool, because that's really how you utilize the enchanters that they think are very strong, which they are strong. It's just that's their kind of one of their key drafting thoughts. Blabber played really bad in this game specifically. Golden Guardians against CLG. Contracts look horrible again. TSM against FlyQuest. TSM looked horrible. They put Huni onto Lulu at one point this weekend. So that's the kind of thing where it's like they don't even understand the identity of their team. It seems pretty obvious to everybody on the outside, like these are the types of champions you should be playing. This is the type of playstyle you should have as a team. But they just don't seem to embrace the team style that is most natural for a lot of these players, which comes down to really coaching in my mind. Like when I coach the Yale team, I know which players I can expect certain types of performances out of, and I always like to draft around that. You need to have an opinion on the meta, but you also need to understand your team, and then you marry those two things together, and you can get good drafts. Immortals against C9. Immortals won. Golden Guardians beat TSM. That game was a shit show. TSM, they did lose that game. TSM probably should have won that game, and there was opportunities for both sides to win. Tactical played pretty well in that game, considering how far behind they were. They will be able to win games where they put Tactical onto a hard carry champion and they just like buff him up and run around the map. Huni looked horrible at playing Lulu. I would not watch that if I were you. It might just make you very upset. Evil Geniuses against 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves wins. That's always within the range of outcomes. They're two very good teams. I still prefer Evil Geniuses long term, but it'll be competitive. Team Liquid against FlyQuest. Team Liquid I think that was a pretty easy win. And then Dignitas beat up on CLG. Dig CLG. Yeah. So that's basically it. It was a good week of games overall. A lot of success in the Discord community. Did we go over the matches for tomorrow? Let's do the matches for tomorrow real quick then. So we have JDG against OMG. That'll be a fun match to watch. And then EDG against Weibo Gaming. EDG is minus 294. What the hell? You have to take Weibo Gaming at that number. That is insane. Wow. That is insane. So let's go lane by lane for both. 369 against Shanji, I prefer 369. Kanavi against Aki, I prefer Kanavi. Yagao against Cream, I prefer Cream. That's the kind of matchup, though, where Yagao will probably have the easier side of a lot of their matchups. And then Hope and Missing against Able and Cold. I think I prefer Hope and Missing, but Able and Cold are pretty good. I think I just want to go double dog tomorrow. I want JDG to do well. I want OMG to do well, so it's tough to pick either side in that. I don't feel like I'm getting a ton of value on either side. So I'd probably I'm not going to bet this on the sports book, but I would want exposure to both sides on DraftKings, depending on how many lineups I end up playing. And then for EDG against Weibo, I'm completely fine just playing Weibo Gaming and hoping that they pull off the upset. They're definitely good enough to beat EDG. I think if this is really like what the sportsbook thinks, then I'm going to be able to make money off of them against EDG moving forward. Let me take a look at the plus 1.5 maps, and then I'll let you get out of here. Jeopardy music. Man, I feel like I gotta make a bet on that. LPL Spring lines, match lines. Weibo Gaming plus 1.5 minus 163. You should probably just bet the individual games. You should bet Weibo Gaming map 1, Weibo Gaming map 2. And just see how that goes for you. But that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. I will have some more videos coming out this week on some different topics. If you have an idea for a video, please let me know. Until next time.